Why is single malt whiskey so expensive? Anyone with a little sip of single malt whiskey knows what we will discuss today. Whiskey is a very premium drink, but a single malt whiskey gives the glass a whole new edge when it comes to being premium. Hi there, whiskey lovers. Today, we're going to explain why single malt whiskey is so expensive. Before we start, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to the WhiskeyWise channel to learn more about the world of whiskey. So what is single malt whiskey? To keep it simple, let's start with a basic and easily understandable definition. Single malt whiskey is a premium type known for its unique flavor, aroma, and character. But why is it expensive compared to other kinds? Don't worry, folks, we will answer that question. This will revolve around it, but not all. You will learn a lot of new things about single malt whiskey. First, the production process of single malt whiskey is more complex than other types of whiskey. If the makers serve quality, they will ask for a hefty sum. It's made from 100% malted barley, germinated barley that's dried over peat fires, giving it a signature smoky flavor. What differentiates it is that other whiskeys may be made with multiple grain varieties. After malting, here comes the very important step in the reduction journey. It's mashed. Sounds too simple. What is so important about mashing germinated barley? Well, the thing is that machines or robots do not perform the process. Rather, it is done under proper human guidance, and most premium brands ensure the barley is hand mashed. So that's all? It turns out to be expensive because it is mashed by hand. Well, just show patience and we will discuss every factor. Let's move on to the next step in this lengthy process. The mashed barley is then fermented. We already know what fermentation is. Almost every alcohol out there is made by fermentation. Then it's distilled in a pot still and aged in oak barrels for at least 3 years. The distillation process for single malt whiskey occurs in copper pot stills, which capture and amplify flavorful components such as esters for a fuller flavor. This step also helps to remove unwanted compounds that can give the final product a bitter or off-putting taste. This is a point to remember. 3 years is a very long time, and the makers have to take care of the whiskey even when it's resting in the barrels. They have to ensure the quality stays good and there is no hampering in the process. Single malt whiskeys are generally distilled in copper pot stills and aged in oak casks no larger than 700 liters for a minimum of 3 years. This small size gives single malt whiskeys their unique character, as the expressions from each distillery develop an array of distinctive flavors and aromas. The whole procedure is what makes the whiskey a true single malt. If it weren't for this far-fetched procedure, there wouldn't be any difference in the quality or the taste for that matter. So I guess now we can all begin to understand why the prices are so high on these drinks. The process of distilling is what makes single malt whiskeys so special. The malted barley is heated to create a wash, which is a low-alcohol base spirit, which is then distilled twice to reduce the alcohol content down to the desired level. This wash then goes through a second distillation process. It can take on some of its signature flavors and textures during this time before it is returned to oak casks for aging, where all its unique characteristics develop, including its rich golden color. Depending on how long the single malt whiskey has been aged, it will display a variety of distinctive aromas, flavors, and finishes. Aged longer means more complexity and intensity regarding flavor and aroma, while younger whiskeys will be lighter with more subtle notes. Therefore, older whiskeys tend to be more expensive due to their rarity and unique taste complexity, often making them more sought after by whiskey connoisseurs. So all of that makes this process very time-consuming and requires a high level of expertise, ultimately leading to a much higher cost. And that's not all. Several other factors also increase the price of the bottle of your dreams. Let's take a look at the other, often forgotten reasons. Here comes another reason for the high cost of single malt whiskey, and that is its rarity. The single malts are one of a kind, and they are quite rare because not all brands are ready to take such a high risk and engage so much of their time in just one product lining. Smaller distilleries typically produce single malt whiskey in limited quantities, making it more exclusive and sought after. There's also a reason behind that. Quality control plays a key factor during production, and it is tough to handle a larger scale, which is why the distilleries stick to smaller scales and bank on the quality of the product. And remember the distillery's location. A single malt whiskey from Islay, Scotland, known for its peaty and smoky flavor, can be more expensive than a single malt whiskey from other regions. Now, why is that? What's so special about that location? Well, here's the thing. The Scottish distilleries have workers who are far more experienced and crafty, and their knowledge about not just single malt, but every kind of whiskey is truly amazing. This gave their work an edge over the regions. Hence, Scottish single malt deservingly grew so popular and expensive. Now let's talk about something we previously hinted at in the video. The age of the whiskey. Yes, it plays a critical role when it comes to the price tag. The more aged whiskey is, the finer it tastes. It's not just me saying this, but also a proven fact. Now, when you start preserving a single malt whiskey, you can't just leave it for 5 to 7 years. It has to be at least 10 years, and obviously the price keeps rising each year. A bottle of 25-year-old single malt whiskey can be several times more expensive than a bottle of 10-year-old single malt whiskey. But regardless of that, they are both much more costly than any other whiskey. Aging plays an especially important role in single malt whiskey production. The length of time spent in oak casks will determine the color and rich aromas found in Scotch whiskey, while also helping to mellow out any harsh alcohols produced by the distillation process. With American single malts, the type of cask used can also influence flavor notes such as sweetness or smokiness. Lastly, the packaging and branding of single malt whiskey can also affect its cost. Single malt whiskey is often packaged more excellently with higher-end bottles and labels, which can add to the price. And let's remember the reputation and brand value of the distillery. Brands make a lot of investments to ensure that the packaging and every drink have a story behind it. The bottles have an appealing character to attract consumers. Even those not fond of drinking would at least keep one because they are so bold and make a very good impression in front of the guests. The whole deal altogether creates a very interesting, yet quite expensive product, our favorite single malt whiskey. So, single malt whiskey is very expensive because of the complex production process, rarity, age, location, branding, and the story it carries. It's almost like time traveling. With every sip, you can feel the years it has been preserved through. But it's worth every penny, and it's a unique and exclusive spirit that truly represents the distiller's skill and expertise. So next time you're considering buying a bottle of single malt whiskey, remember, you're not just buying a drink, but a piece of history. Cheers!